Okay, so as we look at lab 8, you see that we're gonna also include part D. The school computer already have Packet Tracer installed, but if you're using your home computer or your laptop, make sure that you install your Packet Tracer, as I note here. So we will start with part C because a Packet Tracer is already there on our computer in the classroom. Okay, so I open my Packet Tracer. Now, if it requires you to log in, just make sure that you click the right-hand side, the green option, because of the app that we're using, right? So you have a blank workspace. We're gonna go ahead and click. So on the bottom, you would make sure that you select your network devices. And here you would have various model. Now you can download and install additional model to your Packet Tracer for other use. We are going to first add a router, and the model for it is going to be 1841. Okay. So now let's expand this. So the 1841, it should be like the fourth one from the right side. So again, I just make sure that network devices is selected. You're just gonna go ahead and drag the 1841 into your workspace. And this is another network that we're doing. So just like the screenshot, right, we are going to add the router. Then we are going to add the PC. And we should be able to add a couple PC like the picture. So we're going to go to end devices, which is the second option from the left. And then you just drag the PC. So 1 and 2. I'll put the router up a little bit. So begin in part C, and I am at step 4. I had added my router, and then I added 2 of the PC. So number 5. Then we're going to click connections, which is the lightning bolt, and we're going to select crossover cable, which is the dotted line, and we're going to connect the PC to the router. So lightning bolt, we're going to get the straight, not the zigzag, the straight dotted line. And if you're not sure, right, you can put I think it should tell you if you put your cursor over it. But so this is your crossover. I'm gonna go, so I first need to select the PC once I select the cable, right? And crossover, as you know, that is fast Ethernet. So you're gonna select fast Ethernet, and you're going to click on the router, and you're gonna select fast Ethernet on it. And it's okay that it shows red right now. We can configure it to make it green later. Sometimes there's a delay for it to go. And then we would do the same thing for the other PC. So we select the cable, click on the PC, select the port, which is fast Ethernet 0. It's the only network adapter it has. And then connect it back to the router and select fast Ethernet, because crossover is a fast Ethernet, right? So what I did there was I did step 6 and 7. So we want to make sure that we check our switch, and you can click the power button to make it turn on or off. So I put an arrow there for you. Now in the back of the switch in the picture, as you can see, that means that these are empty slots, right? That we can add adapters or what they call modules for physical connection for cabling to the back of your switch. Or I'm sorry, your router. Okay. So in the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to check if the router's power is on. And then once it's on, yeah, you have to turn it on in order to, we're going to go in and we're going to use the command line interface, and we're going to apply the concept that we talked about last week, where we would type in the information, right, to set up our network on the router. Okay, so coming back here, click on your router. You just click it once, and then making sure that the power is green. And then you're going to click on CLI. And this is what you normally see when you connect to it. It says, would you like to do the initial configuration? And you just simply type lowercase yes, right? And press enter. So it basically walks you through on how to set it up. When you open the box, plug the router in, connect the cable to your PC, right? And then when you prompted with setup management, yeah, so we're going to say yes again for the next step. Type yes and press enter for step 10. Then we're going to type in the router name. So what is your host name right now? It's named as router, a generic name. So you are going to type R1. And then for step 12, we are going to put in a secret. And this is going to allow us to use this for information for authentication purposes. This is for encryption. So we're going to do my Cisco network. Right? So this is just for the lab purposes, but you want to be able to make your secret longer, complex, not plain text. I mean, not just common words. So we want to make sure that our secret is more lengthy, right? But you get the idea that you can set up your secret for encryption. So once you type in my Cisco network, press enter, and it will proceed to ask you for your password. And we can type in capital CIS40A exclamation, like how we've been using our password, but real life password should be complex and strong or long. So once we put in our password, press enter, and then it asks you for another password, which is a virtual password. So that means that if I'm at home and I need to remote into my router, right, I would need to connect to a virtual terminal. So the second password is for the virtual terminal, you see, for remote access purposes. So it tells me that I need to set that up, and that is remote Cisco R1. And then once you enter that, just press enter to input that information. And it says, do you want to configure simple network management protocol? This allows us to be able to utilize this service to manage all your systems in the network. Typically, this is often used in a network environment, right? So you can enter no for now and then go back and reconfigure that at a later time. So we're going to type in no lowercase and press enter. So once that's done, it gives you the current interface summary. Now, this is the model that you're working with. Keep in mind, not all of them would have this version of OS, or they would do it this way, right? But the majority of the time you will see the setup prompt, like what we just gone through, where it would give you the general summarized information on what you have entered. So it helps you set up the first part. Now, if your routers have already been set up, let's say that someone already set it up and now you're going to go in and configure additional things, you won't have that prompt. Okay. So in the next part, it tells you review the interface information. What we're going to do is we are going to access these two interfaces, right? The Fast Ethernet 0/0 and the Fast Ethernet 0/1, mostly the first one. So what we're going to do is it says it's down, it's not connected, it's not on. You see the state there. So this allows you to see what's going on right now. What we'll need to do, and we also have a VLAN 1, right? And that one is also down. So we would need to change the configuration so they can stay up and modify, right? Okay. So what we'll do is we are going to enter this interface, Fast Ethernet 0/0, and then we're going to configure the IP address for that port, right? So that's the first Fast Ethernet port, and we're going to make it a .1. So enter the interface to connect to the management network from the above summary. Sorry, So I'm going to go ahead and type in fast, right? Exactly like how it's stated here. So you just follow the summarized information 0/0. So that's the first port right here, right? And then now it asks me, do I want to configure this interface, this port? And you should say yes. So it's like using the interface command and the actual port information. So now I'm going to type yes. And then enter the IP. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to put in 192.168.10.1. And then press enter. And it asks for the subnet mask. So this is a default class C. It's a classful address here. So we re-enter the subnet mask as a class for the classful address. And then press enter. Now it gives you three options. We can go to the command prompt to save the config, go back to do the setup, or save. We're going to save. So press 2 and then enter. And it's going to take a little bit to write to RAM. So any kind of update you want to make sure that you save it so that way the system will have that configuration that you have modified. Now, once you have done that, you're going to see your user exec mode with the new name that you have given it, which is R1 for router 1. You are going to go into the privilege mode by typing in enable, right? Go back to the step 12 and put in your secret information and also your password if it's prompt. Then you're going to go use config term for the global access configuration access mode. And then you are going to access the second port, which is Fast Ethernet 0/1. and you are going to put in its IP address. Notice that you're using a .20 here, where in the first one you're using a .10, right? So network, network, network host for a class C. So we're going to use one for one network and one for another network. Okay. Okay, so mine should be, okay, so now we're going to press enter. So when you see it like this, right, you just press enter and you're going to see your user exec mode, which is your host name and the arrow. So what you're going to do is you type in enable. Now en command only can also work, and then it asks you for the password. So you go back to step 12. And just type, don't pay attention to the cursor because it's Linux and it doesn't change.
Password is.
Yeah, it's the enable secret. It's the highlighted one. Step 12. I know password sounds misleading, but it's the secret. And just type, don't pay attention to the cursor. So once I've entered the secret, which is the highlighted from number 12, it's gonna take me to the privilege mode. And you notice that there's a hashtag that we talked about before. And then I'm going to type in number 24 command, which is config term. You can type configure terminal, but config term will do. And once you do that, you are now in the global configuration mode, and you see that your pop-up changed. It adds the config to it. Then I'm going to access my port by saying interface fast Ethernet 0/1. This is the second port, right? Remember in the summary, we have two fast Ethernet port. One, we already set it up through the prompt that it walks us through. Second, this is what we're doing now when we actually access the interface. And once you do the interface and the port name or the port ID, it would show you that it is configuring the interface as IF, right? And then we're going to do IP space address and type in the IP address that's shown in the subnet mask. We're going to do a .20.1 space 255.255.255.0. Press enter. If it doesn't complain, then everything is good. If it shows error, that's likely that you just mistyped something, so go back and check. So it took my IP address for the second port. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a no shutdown. That means that it's going, remember how we saved that in the prior prompt? It's the same way that we will be able to save the configuration. So for step 28, that's an RO, not a 0, read only. Okay, RO, public RO is read only. Okay, so once we did a no shutdown command, it saves that information to our memory, and we are going to configure our simple network management protocol. See you later. As a server community public read only. So once you see the blinking, just press enter, right? And then we are going, it changes, you notice that the interface now, it's enabled that. So it turns it on to and make the state as up. That means that it's on now. Okay. Then we're going to do SNMP lowercase. We're going to do a dash server community public RO, capital O, not 0. This allows a read-only information to public. So that means that it doesn't require you to authenticate to look up some management information for this system. You don't have to. If you want to make it private, you should see the next step where you can do private read and write. You can use that command, okay, for 29. So that means that when we save information, we require authentication, right? So it talks about that there for message format, on how the protocol performs get set notification. So when it does the get, it just shows the information and that's read only. You cannot have someone go and modify and save it over. When we do a set, because it's private, right? We want the server to require that the read and write information for that community. You can do an RW for read and write for private. So you can do either or in this case. So once we do the read only, you just press enter and it says SNMP agent on host router 1 is undergoing warm start. And then if you want, you can make SNMP server community private RW for read and write. So that's how you can set, that's how you can set management information for read and write or read only for the server community. And again, SNMP is a way that we can manage all the devices, all communication devices, appliances, or even using a server system, right? Okay. So once we're in the configuration mode, right, to set the static route, we're going to use command IP route 192.168.10.0. You notice that I'm using a network IP address, not a usable IP address, because the router just needs to get you to the exit. Okay, it's a transit system. So the router routes to, it's like taking the freeway is the router. It gets you to the exit. The switch is going to take over from that part of the network and it's going to get you to your house, right? To your system. So we just need a network IP address and a subnet mask. So space subnet mask. And then we are going to put in the 10.10.10.2. So it's going to go from the 192 address, the 192 network to this address. It's kind of like saying you're going to go from your main street to the 215 freeway, right? To get to Paris. Okay. So once we set the route, you would activate the route. So we would do IP routing. Okay. So that's how you put in a static route. So the takeaway from this is, one, you need to make sure that you're in the configuration mode, right? You set up your IP address for your router. Once it has the address on the port, it would know that's the network that it's handling. Then we're going to put in the route information by using a network IP, not a usable IP, a network IP, right? And it's subnet mask and to the next router. Okay, it's like from hop to hop. Then we activate it by using IP routing. Okay, I put in the documentation if you want to do that. Now we're going to use RIP algorithm, and RIP version 2 use router RIP command. Now, if your router doesn't have RIP service, that means that it doesn't come with RIP, you cannot use this command. Okay, so read the specification for your router before you start using a certain type of route. So RIP is a way that we can route, just like how we talked about, you know, how we can calculate the sum of the distance, some can look at the path, right? Like different streets to go from your home to work. Well, for RIP, it is normally used for smaller networks, and it does distance vector algorithm. So that means what? It sums up the distance from the source to the destination, and that's how it's like how many miles from here to Corona, right? So we're gonna do router RIP, and we want to put in version 2 because there are 2 versions. Now, with RIP, because we're using RIP, so you notice that my path has changed. So once I say router RIP, it tells me, it shows up now that I am configuring my router. So config router and put in the version. And then we are going to set it to, we're going to put in network and the IP for the first port, right? 192.168.10.1, that's the first IP address that we use the prompt to configure for the fast Ethernet port 0. So you want, after you put in the IP, put in enter key, press enter key. And we want automatic summarization for the subnet routes at the network level. This will allow the sub-prefix routing for pass across classical network. You need to use no auto summary. So we're going to do no auto summary. Because you don't want the summarization of your routes, right? It's just going to pass it in as a part of your network boundaries. And then once you're done with your router, we're going to do an exit or end. So when you do exit, it's just going to get out of the router mode, right? And then you can do exit again to get out of the config mode. And then we want to save, so press enter to get back to the privilege mode, right? This is the privilege mode, and we're going to do write memory. This is how you can save to RAM. Okay. So these are some of the things, and you have new command also, right, for router, because we talked a little bit about how to get to different mode, and then set up IP address. So you can write to memory in the privilege mode to save. Now we want to, so if you don't see the privilege mode, you can type in exit, but here I'm already in the privilege mode, so I'm going to do enable to get. If you type enable here, right, it's going to keep bringing you back there because you're already in it. But if you exit out of it, you have to type in enable. So when you see the hashtag, you don't need to do enable for step 38. Okay? Only if you exit out of that and you're in the user exec mode. So now I'm going to do a show running config. This is how you can see active configuration on your router. Okay, one, it shows you the version, right? The host name, which is what you created, you put in R1. The secret, of course, it's not in plain text, so it shows, you know, symbols and characters there, and then the password that you had set up. Now, if you press your arrow key, then it's going to bring you back to your pop-up, right? But if you scroll up, basically it only, right, it doesn't have any additional information beyond that, unless you ask to show other things. So that's a configuration that you have saved to it and that it's loading that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to list all the port. So if you don't put in the brief, it's going to give you a very long list. If you have a switch that, let's say 48 ports, it's going to list all 48 with all the details where it's very lengthy. So if you want brief, it's just a summarized version, a table of all your ports. Remember that this is a router, so you don't have that many ports, right? I put this comment in your lab 1 at the beginning, so now you see why. It only have like 2 Ethernet port and at most 1 more port. So 2 or 3 ports usually on a router. So we're going to do a show IP interface 3. So it's going to tell me my ports and the IP address that I had set up, right? The state, is it up or down? So when you say up, that means that it's working, it's active, it's talking, right? And so I had set up 2 ports, so I'm successful thus far. At this point, I want you to take a screenshot showing me that you have set them up. Okay. And then looking back at the workspace, it's working, right? You should see green. So if you don't configure, then everything is red. It's not talking. So you understand the process now. When you connect the cable, right, you have to configure the router to have an IP address and set the route for it in order for the computer to communicate, right? I'm here at computer on the left, and it needs to route to computer on the right. And they are in different networks. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to click on each of the PC. We're going to click on the configure tab of the PC. We're going to enter the default gateway, remove the PC using the delete button, and you can extend the network by adding the switch to server and connecting it with the crossover like this. Okay. So you can keep one PC, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add a switch to it. You can delete the second PC or move that second PC to a switch. And then you're going to configure it in the next part. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. My configuration CLI. I'm going to take the second PC, and then you can click the X delete button on the top right here. It's like the below options under the save button. So select the object and then click delete, and it says, are you sure? Yes, delete it. So now I'm going to keep one. I'm going to simulate this network now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the switch, and it's important that you use the 2960 because if you use a different model, you will run into issues. Okay, so go back to your network devices, which is bottom left. Click on it. Right? Let me see. Yeah, if you don't find it here, maybe if you click on the switch option. I forgot. Yeah. So under network devices, go to the switches, which is the bottom, like the one on the second left. Right? So make sure that you click the switch, and the 2960 is the first option there. So just drag it. So make sure that we select the switch and then pick 2960. This one says a 24 port switch. And it tells me that I'm going to use a crossover again, right? So we're going to console it. So from the router to it, I'm going to click on the lightning bolt, select the crossover, connect it from the router, which is fast Ethernet, to the switch, which is, I'll use port 1. So fast Ethernet on both. From the router to the switch. You see the picture, it's dotted line just like the other one. And then I'm gonna select the end devices. I'm gonna add 3 more PC to the switch and a server. So we're gonna go end devices, right? We can add a server and then 3 more PC. And these, we're gonna connect them with the straight through Ethernet. So click on the lightning bolt, click the solid black straight cable, which is your straight through. Click the switch. I'm going to connect port 2 to the server, fast Ethernet. And then again, same thing from the switch, port 3. So as you do it, it's going to take it off the list. And then the next one, 4.
I think I did it wrong.
5. So they're all fast Ethernet, but on the PC, we're going to do a straight through. Okay. So in the CLI, we would do the setup. We use the switch CLI to set up the initial configuration, and then we're gonna put in the IP address. Okay. So yeah, you're gonna see them all green if you connect the right cable to the right port. So what I did was I connect the server to port 2, I believe. Right. So because port 1 was used to connect to the router, and then 3, 4, and 5 subsequently. And we're good. Should be green. And then you click on the switch, right? Make sure that you check if the power is on, but so that way you can access the CLI.
The switch?
Yeah, on the switch. So I click on the switch, right? And then I click CLI. It should be on already to get it green. So it gives me this. Remember that this user exec mode, it tells me that I have added, see, it shows me all the connection for port 4, port 5, port 3, and port 2. All of those got cable connected and they are talking, right? So you just simply press enter to get to the user exec mode. And then what do I do here? See if you remember. I need to get to the privilege mode, enable, right? And then once I'm in enable, I'm in the privilege exec mode. What do I do? Config term. Come on, guys. I won't be there to be your reminder, right? On the job. So config term. So how do I set an IP address for my switch? Okay, but which port?
Fast Ethernet 0/1, since that's the one connected back to
Router. That's correct. So if you don't know, because it tells you right here, fast Ethernet 0/1, you had connected that to the router right before, you know, where it says return press get started. The second line below it, it tells you that when you connect that cable, it changes the state, right? So we can say interface, right? Fast Ethernet 0/1. Now we're in that port. We're gonna set IP address. So IP space address, right? What's the IP? 192.168.10.5, 192.168.10.5. Oh, it did not like that. I'm sorry. Let me come back to that. Hold on a second. Oh, you know why? It's, yeah, it's not, okay. You know why? It's a layer 2 switch. Cannot do IP. Yeah. So you can only set it as, yeah, you have to make it a VLAN. So let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna put a note here, right? Does layer 2 switch route? No, right? Usually back in the day when the model number really represent, so when it doesn't take an IP address, you know that it's only framing. It doesn't route it as a packet. So I'm gonna put no, this model of the switch model does not route. Cannot use IP address command in regular port. Must use VLAN. So we saw earlier, let me see, does it have a VLAN? Oh, I should have done the brief. Sorry. So this is what happens when you don't do brief. It lists all your property of your port like this. Instead of like a brief table. And I would have to view all 24 ports this way, and I don't want to. Okay. So show interface brief. Yeah, it doesn't take yeah, so it shows that I don't think it even have a default VLAN. Dre said that to use VLAN. Okay, yeah, it does have VLAN 1. So I did a show VLAN and it gives me the option there. Okay, so let's fix this problem. To see VLAN, use show VLAN in, sorry, in privilege mode. Okay, so now we're gonna have to access the VLAN, okay? So we see that it has a VLAN space 1. So interface, let's try. Did that work? Maybe just VLAN. Yeah, it's not letting me. Oh, I'm sorry. Enable config term. Okay. Okay, here you go. This is how. You need to type in config term, right? Config term. Then once you have it in the configuration mode, you're gonna do interface VLAN. What did I say? VLAN 1? VLAN space 1. That's what is defaulted name. Space 1. And then what you can do, let me see if it will take the IP address with that. You try that? Oh, and then the subnet mask. Worked. So IP address, right? 192.168.10.5, and then the subnet mask space subnet mask. And that worked. Because if you have a catalyst or a switch that doesn't have routing capability, you cannot use IP address command. And the only way that it can route is through its own virtual local area network using that. So that means that I have to go into the global config mode. I need to access the port for the VLAN, and I would tie the IP address to that port. Okay. And now we just need to tie that VLAN port to a regular physical port. And in this case, it's only one VLAN. So how did I do that? I did a show VLAN command, and that's how I can see it. You can see that here. It gives me a table, right? And I see that there's a VLAN 1. But there are other subsequent VLAN for other things, but you know, yeah. So the default one is the one right there. And then, so that means that I can configure it with an IP address. So now, so how do I get out of it?
Is it?
Exit, very good. At least remember that, right? One more.
After a while, you'll be like, oh, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah, so exit twice to get you back to the user exec mode, press enter key, and then show VLAN. I wonder if you just do a show VLAN, it's gonna come up. Oh, oh, that's really, really big. But it doesn't have, let me see if you press, yeah, it doesn't have the IP that we put in. Let me see. Or is it IP interface? Yeah. So if you do, okay, to see, to note, to see VLAN IP, you use command show. So you're gonna exit twice, okay? So exit, exit. Make sure you do that, and then you're gonna do show IP interface. And it should show, no period. It should show the VLAN for you. And I see that right here. Take a screenshot.
What part?
Yeah, after you show the VLAN and the IP address. So you have to run this command. So you have to be in the user exec mode or the privilege mode to see that.
Which is enabled, right?
Yeah,
Or
you can,
just-
if you exit twice, press enter key and then just type show IP interface and you should see it the first thing.
Oh,
You see it?
yeah.
Okay, so you kind of have to get to where I am, right? Like if things don't work, you have to think logically, oh, is this a layer 3+ switch? And if it's not, then I can get it through the VLAN port, because if it has to be LAN, how do I know if it has to be LAN? I can do a show VLAN to see it. Once I see the VLAN, I can program the VLAN or configure the VLAN and be able to tie it to an IP address. And then next I can configure that VLAN to a physical port, right? But ultimately, you need to be able to use some of the command to kind of see things, set things, and then see things again. That's all that is in Cisco configuration. Configure and then show, right? Or show, configure, and then show. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about this last week. When you see the hashtag that's in the privilege mode, right? And privilege, you can save, you can set some things like passwords, but if you see the hashtag next to the name, then you're in the privilege mode and you can use show command in this mode, okay? If you see the arrow, then you're in the user exec mode. It's read only. You can use the show command, but you cannot configure in both of these modes. When you see the word config next to your user, your switch or your router name, then you can configure. Okay, we talked about that. So see lecture unit 7. Okay. Any question? So I'm gonna go ahead and save my packet tracer file. And you can do more to this, right? You can configure your DNS server. You've done some of that. So the whole point is to get you here and you can practice this, use this network, and you can add more, subtract, modify, whatever you like. Okay, so we're gonna go file, save as, and I'm just gonna call this lab 8. Okay, now we're just gonna bring in a pre-made topology by downloading the file from our lab assignment page, and we're gonna open it up inside our packet tracer. This is something that we didn't get to from last week. So once I'm done, right, I can close or I can go file, open, and I'm gonna save the changes, save it to lab 8. Or I'll just do file new. Okay, you can go file new to have your Canvas workspace clear. And then I would go to our lab assignment and you can find the PKT file here, just download it. From lab 8 page, you see it right here. Okay, so once I download it, save it to your downloads. We're gonna use, so I go file, new, right, to get my Canvas space clear after I save the previous exercise. I'm gonna go ahead, file, open, and then go to your downloads and select the download, deploying cable and devices. So basically the placeholder for your appliances, you just need to drop them in. Really easy, right? We'll start with the PC and devices. Drag the PC, put it on top of its label. Same thing on the right side. So I basically downloaded from my Lab 8 this file. And then I go to Packet Tracer, click File New, and then Open, File Open, and then find my downloaded file. And it has these placeholder or the labels. And so I just drag the device in. So I put in 6 of the PC. Now I can go to network devices. You already know how to find your switch. So network devices and click switches, the second option on the bottom right. And then 2960, drop them in. So now we just need to connect them, right? So here, so we put in the PCs and the switch. You are going to connect the first PC to the switch with fast Ethernet 2 and subsequently 3. So we just follow number 58 and we connect the PC to the switch. So coming back here, right, we're going to click on the lightning cable bolt, and we're going to connect using straight through. And it tells us that the first PC, that's going to be port 2 on the switch. So click the solid black cable, click on the first PC, which is PC 0, fast Ethernet 0, and connect that to the switch port 2. So 0/2. And you would do subsequently for the other ones. Port 3. Wait. So it tells me that PC number 3 is going to connect to switch with port 1. Oh, they're all kind of messed up. But the second switched. So on the right side. So on the left, you just connect them subsequently. So 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and click the solid black cable, connect the last PC here on the left to the switch. And we're just going to go with port 4 for that one. So 2, 3, 4 on the switch. Then on the right hand side, we'll do the same thing. Click the solid black cable, connect the PC fast Ethernet to the switch. And we're going to go, says 1, 2, 3. I don't think it really matters if you don't stay in that order. But the point is that we're using the right cable connected to the right port. So click the solid black cable, straight cable, click the fast Ethernet on the PC, fast Ethernet on the switch. Okay, so now give it a few seconds and everything should be green on each part of the network, the left and the right. And then we're going to connect the switches together with crossover, right? Same devices use crossover. Different devices use a straight through. You learned this when you made cable. So coming back here, right? Click the straight dash, which is a crossover cable. Connect the switch, and I'm going to use fast Ethernet 1 on the left. Connect it with fast Ethernet 4 on the right, or whichever you want. So technically you can use gigabit to gigabit, but you get the idea. So we can do fast Ethernet to fast Ethernet on that one. But now it's not full-fledged until you configure additional things, but this is how you can just do an unmanaged switch this way, right? We just plug the cable in, turn it on, done for the day, unmanaged. If you want managed, then you can go in and configure it. I can set like SNMP services, other things. So everything works. So at this point, take a screenshot and you can tell me, you know, what have you learned about switch and router configuration? Even if things like a hashtag means I'm in this mode, right? A config means I'm in this mode. So that's the whole point in showing you how to do this. So I'm only showing you a brief way to set up a network, but it's not fully configured until you go in and configure your PC, like set and then add it to a router. So you can throw in a router, connect the router to these switches, right? So now you know how to simulate it. And then you can access the command line interface, right? And have at it. Go learn. The only way that you're going to get better is to type and practice. I make mistakes. You see it, right? Sometimes it's been a while. So sometimes like I don't remember, is it show IP interface, show interface briefs? If it doesn't take it, then see why it doesn't take it, right? Right. And but you can also go to Cisco Academy and you know when you log in, go to the website and they walk you through and they have other examples that you can use. But you can make any network with this, right? You can add components and configure them until you know this is a good way to practice. Okay. All right. So answer the questions. When you're done, make sure you submit the screenshot and some of your answers, and that's basically lab 8. I'm gonna end my recording.